In this video, I want to get into value returning functions. Now, they're the same as functions that receive arguments, but they output a particular value. In this case, we want to we want username to return a double. And in this, we're going to change up the program a little bit. We're going to propose that instead of depositing money, you're withdrawing money and you want to figure out what the transaction fee is to withdraw a certain amount of money. Similar to how if you withdraw money from Cash App too early, they charge you a 3% fee. So we're going to set up a couple variables to enable that. Locally inside the main method, we'll put in a variable. We'll call it. It will be a double, and it'll hold the same. It'll hold the information that is located in account balance. So what we'll do is we'll change this to a double, and that changing from a void to a double basically means, or any data type. We could put integer or what have you, but for now we'll use a double because account balance is a double data type. So we're going to take account balance and we're going to return account balance, and that makes this method valid. Now I'm throwing up an error because we're not using username anywhere in particular in the main method. But what we're going to do is we're going to dump account balance, the value account balance, into balance. So what we'll do here is also set up one more or two more variables. We'll create another double variable and we'll call it transaction costs. And basically that is going to tell us how much it's going to cost to, and this variable is going to hold how much it's going to cost to withdraw money. And then we'll also set up another constant variable. So we'll call it final, and it'll be a double variable, and we'll call it transaction. We'll call it transaction fee, and we'll set that equal to 0.03, so 3% transaction fee, which is pretty standard, I would imagine. And so what we'll do here is after we get we call username here, just like we call any other method, we'll dump the value of whatever username outputs into balance, and we'll set that equal to username. And then what we'll also do after that is we'll take transaction, we'll set transaction cost equal to balance times transaction fee, so times 3%, and that will produce whatever the percentages of the withdrawal from the user's trying to pull. They'll multiply that times the transaction fee, which is a percentage, and doubling the transaction cost. And then we'll do a system out call, and then we'll format this, and we'll say your transaction fee is, and then we'll put a $, and then we'll format this to again be similar to US dollars, how US dollars are formatted, and then we'll put in transaction cost as the amount we'll format. And we'll change this to how much do you want to withdraw, and then we'll also change this to how much you want to withdraw is, and that should do it for reformatting this this program. So we don't have any errors thrown up by IntelliJ, so that's a good sign. But let's just make sure and double check our work. And see right here, it's pretty much the same as before, but we call a username. We input, oddly enough, input a string and output a double, which is a bit odd, but it can work. Normally, you would want to input, a number and then output a number. But the user or the programmer create the methods to serve your purposes. So we call the username, inputs the username that the user tells the main method, and then the main method takes that, outputs the username, and then formats it also asks the user how much do they want to withdraw, and then tell them how much they're going to withdraw. Your transaction fee is, whatever the amount is, and it ends. Assuming that you do have an account. If you don't have an account, then you're going to have to create an account. And then something else that we're probably going to have to format here is a new space or a new line, so that it's now these two lines don't run into each other. All right, so let's run this program, see what happens. And we'll say again, yes, I do have a account. My account name is Rab Muhammad. My username is Rab Muhammad. Yep, and I want to withdraw $100. And I want to withdraw $100. Your transaction fee is $3, which is 3% of 100, and that works. So that's value returning functions in a nutshell. We can also have a value returning function as a Boolean, and we could get even deeper and turn this section right here into a Boolean, or even this section into a Boolean. And so how we do that, we could just create a new method. It'll be a Boolean value returning method, and we'll say public static Boolean, and we'll name this method does have account. And this method will take an input string, and we'll declare a string user. That's the name of the reference variable, right? And it's pretty simple. We'll declare a Boolean variable, and we'll declare output. We'll call it output, and the declaration statement, and then output will be equal to user.equals y, or we could do user.equals lowercase y. And that's a simplified way of using, instead of putting an if statement, either this is true or this is false, and it'll input that statement into output. And then we're going to return output. And that's the Boolean value that does have account inputs. And then we can just erase this and put does have account, and the argument will be input. All right. So since this takes a string, input is a string from the user, this value will either be false or yes or no, and imagine this were in a class, and the classes we'll learn about in module 6, but you basically took that line and put it, or the Boolean expression in the if statement, into a separate method. And you can use this method in other areas. You could have, does the user have a savings account, or does the user have a checking account? And you can use that in multiple different places instead of constantly having to write this equivalency. And so we'll run this program again. We'll compile it again, and it'll run the same, essentially the same, just a little bit more efficiently. So So, again, we'll get into more about methods in Module 6 and how they interact with classes, or what that looks like in classes. But this is a very powerful tool moving forward.